This is an example of managing my personal calendar using a HiTask called Ken/calendar. Ken is my user account that I've used to publish this task, and calendar is the name that I've given it. So you can actually drop into the task simply by using HiTask Ken calendar from the terminal. In my case, I've actually aliased Cal to run this automatically. That's typically what I do. Like usual, when entering task mode, you can see the instructions for the LLM are printed above. So we can see at the most basic level, the calendar events are stored in assets keyed by calendar/the date. And then an actual day's asset format is explained below, effectively a list of timestamps - descriptions. All right, then there are some instructions on exactly how to perform various operations on the calendar. So here I can simply ask the LLM for what I'm doing today. And we can see that it finds 6 different events. Now what I can do is I can add another one. I can say, hey, at 9 p.m., let's go grocery shopping at Mega Mart. Now I successfully have 7 entries, including the new last entry. I can also say mark it as important. And now it's been given a red exclamation mark. Great. I can also ask for what's going on tomorrow. Or something even more sophisticated, like what's my biggest social event in the next week? And here it correctly deduces that on July 4th, I have a party with my extended family. So naturally, that is the biggest social event I have this week. All right, so how does this work? Well, like I kind of mentioned earlier, the data is stored in your assets under calendar/date. So I can use ls. This is not listing anything on my machine. This is listing my assets by prefix. So we can check the calendar prefix, and we can see I have an asset per day that I've had an event be created. So I only have like a week's worth of data here. Now we can examine these assets. So let's go ahead and check the one for today. And what we see here is that the data is completely in plain text. In fact, what you see is more or less what the LLM was printing out to us. Actually, I think in this case it is exactly the same. And what's great is that because the data is in plain text, the LLM and I are using the exact same data source. So there's no JSON blob describing my calendar. There's no relational DB in the backend that's mediated through some GUI that I have to use. It's all just right here. And it's really only possible because of the LLM's ability these days to perform so much natural reasoning. So this to me is extremely powerful and why I see Hi as an experiment in personal computing. So the second thing to see with regards to how this works is the use of the optional Hi tool. And if you remember, once again, the Hi tool is used for, it gives the LLM the ability to simply run REPL commands so that I don't actually have to type them in. So if we go back to the very top, we can see that my very first query, asking for what's happening today, simply resulted in loading the calendar for today, and then effectively prompting itself to rewrite those calendar events for my consumption. In this case, I think it did very little rewriting. And that's how we got this output. So viewing calendar events typically involves asset loads of the days, and then it prompts itself to condense that information. And that's actually going to be most evident when asking for a calculation that spans multiple days. So if we go down to where I asked what the biggest social event for the week was going to be, we can see here that it loaded 7 days worth of information. It prompted itself to then analyze that information and ultimately came up with the answer that it was my family party on July 4th. Now, for modifying calendar events, we can see a slightly different pattern. So when we asked to add the grocery shopping event, we can see it did 2 things. First, it loaded the calendar day, but then it actually recursively called the Hi tool. And the reason why is because this recursion is necessary so that it has the calendar day information that it can then analyze, change, and then save as a new asset. So that's pretty cool that an LLM is able to figure out that it needs to do that. And that's also why I'm using GPT 4.1 for this rather than maybe a cheaper but less capable LLM. All right, that's all. And yeah, I hope that was interesting.